I can't get enough. Got a space in my tackle box, just got to fill it up. Lure love, I can't ever stop. Don't got a basement, got an underground tackle shop.
And here are the hosts of the Lure Love podcast. John, Crappy Hippie King, and Tim, Tackle Box Beat.
John and I, along with Lucy the Lurematic Computer, are so excited for this first episode of the Lure Love podcast, where our motto is, why buy one lure when you can buy 103? So, John, both of us have test fishing ponds where we test out lures. Tell me a little bit about the pond on your property where you test lures.
It's just a little under, just a little over, right around 2 acres. It's shared by myself, my sister, and our neighbor. But I own most of it. And it's just your typical Kansas pond with the bass, bluegill, catfish, but we also have crappie and red ear in that pond. So it gives me a good opportunity to go down and test things out when I think them up, or just keep my fishing skills sharp. And I encourage people to, come and fish. I like that it gets some pressure, because that is a good judge of a bait if it can overcome the fishing pressure and get fish to strike. So yeah, typical Kansas pond. We love it.
How deep is it?
It is good and deep. I mean, it's the very middle. It's probably 6.5 feet, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in Kansas, if you find a pond that's over 6-8 feet, that's a deeper pond. Real deep ponds are around 10 to 15, and quarry ponds and all that. Don't get me going on ponds, Tim, because I have 2 of my favorite ponds are only 3.5-4 feet deep all the way across. You can wade all the way across them, and they're killer. Let's hear about your pond.
So the pond that I have at my house, I'm actually live in the suburbs, so it's a suburban detention pond. It's only about 3/4 of an acre, but the water is pretty clear for a pond like that, because you get a lot of the runoff and things coming into it. Similar to yours, bass, bluegill, catfish, and some huge grass carp that I've had the pleasure of catching on a fly rod, and they are just amazing fish to catch. Probably maybe 9 feet deep at the deepest, but similar to your pond, probably averages 5 or 6 feet. Heavily pressured, but that most of that pressure is from me. I fish it almost every day. I do at least one lap, and especially when we get new lures to review. The great thing is I open the mail and I'm out at the pond in 5 minutes and testing those bad boys out.
I hear that. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Like you get something, and man, you go right on down. We're just a couple little kids when it comes to lures, aren't we, Tim?
We are.
Oh, that was a good cast. Nice cast. She's in there all right. Oh, here she comes. Look at the size of that weight.
Dang, son. Where'd you find that lure?
Hey, you know what, Tim? Berkely sent me some fishing lures. They send you some fishing lures?
They sure did. And there's nothing that we like better than getting free lures in the mail to review. They sent us the hit sticks.
Love that name, hit stick. Yeah. It's a beautiful bait, beautifully constructed on that Rapala minnow, design that's been known and loved and emulated and copied. But I think this goes beyond pure reinvention. I think this is as unique a take on the slim minnow as you can find.
There's really a lot of research and design that went into this lure. Sometimes you see a new lure comes out, and it just seems like it's a slight variation of things you've seen before. But the scientists at Berkely really put a lot of thought into this. And I really wish we had the chance to talk to some of the Berkely lure scientists to learn more about the hit stick.
Well, Tim, you could call Berkely and talk to one of their scientists, or I could just hack into their mainframe and get the answers for you.
Don't do that, Lucy.
Too late. I'm inside the Berkely mainframe.
Whoa.
Accessing top secret hit stick design documents. Analyzing, analysis complete.
At least you didn't leave any tracks that you've been in their mainframe.
The hit stick is a jerkbait style lure that comes in 7 bait lengths from 2 inches to 5 1/9 inches, and 20 color combinations. Swim depth is from 2 to 9 feet. The hit stick delivers ultimate versatility and can be used as a finesse jerkbait, trolling bait, or casting bait for all predator fish. Berkely scientists identified 4 key design factors that they incorporated in the hit stick. The factors are: Number 1, yaw. Yaw is rotation around the vertical axis of the bait. Number 2, tail swing. Tail swing causes vibration, which attracts fish. Number 3, roll. When the bait rolls side to side, it flashes, attracting fish. Number 4, pitch. The pitch of the bait in the water should be flat, mimicking the way a bait naturally swims in the water. Together, these 4 pillars attract fish from a distance and also pass up close inspection just before the fish strikes.
Very interesting.
Balsa has always been a great material for jerkbaits because of its lifelike action.
I've always liked fishing with balsa, but it does have a few drawbacks. You know, the original Rapala was primarily used as a trolling lure because in the 30s, when it was invented, the rods and reels and lines weren't capable of casting such a light lure.
That's right, Tim. As a material, balsa can be inconsistent, not very durable, and can't be cast very far.
Especially if you're trying to cast into the wind.
The hit stick was designed to remove all of those negative factors, while keeping the positive ones. Using their patented flash disc technology, flat weights on the bottom of the bait, Berkely was able to keep the buoyancy and action of balsa with a tougher exterior, and the ability to cast much further than balsa. The flash discs add mass without sacrificing buoyancy, and give plenty of room for rattles.
I love rattles.
The synthetic material used for the hit stick is much more consistent than balsa. Every hit stick swims exactly the same. Hit sticks are 364% tougher than balsa, and cast 60% further than balsa. There are 4 patents pending on the hit stick design. Exiting the Berkely mainframe computer.
Well, I guess that was a little bit easier than calling the Berkely scientists.
Oh, by the way, I also downloaded the stats from the Berkely fish strike tests. I'm printing it out for you now, Tim.
Okay, so the hit stick advertising says that it's scientifically proven to bring more fish into the boat. Now, you've gone over this data, Tim. Explain it to me, explain it to the listeners. What is this Berkely data saying to us?
Well, the first thing is I love the fact that at Berkely and other lure companies that they actually are doing this science and testing. And at Berkely, they conduct their research in their lab's fish behavior pool. So they can watch how fish react to different lures and to estimate catch rates and how often the fish are hitting the lure. It really makes sense because while you want to test lures in the field, you want to watch how fish, approach them and the reaction that you get out of them. So they have their pros doing head-to-head field testing too, but the lab is really key. And they use their research to determine the specific actions and hard baits that increase the catch rate. So what is it about the wobble, the action that gets more fish to strike? And they've taken those features and then designed them into the hit stick. The research data shows is that in their fish behavior pool, Berkely ran these hard baits by live bass, and they watched and they quantified how they reacted to different baits. And they compared the hit stick to a similar competitive floating minnow style bait. And they measured both the hits when the fish actually takes the bait, as well as bumps. So, you've been fishing and a fish comes up and just kind of noses the bait, but is showing significant interest in it. And they tested 3 different sizes of the hit stick. And overall, and I thought this was pretty impressive, the hit stick got 33% more hits and bumps than the competitor, but the results did vary by the size of the bait. And I thought that this was interesting. For the smallest bait, which was 2 3/4 inches and 1/4 ounce, the hit stick got 45% more hits and bumps. Now that is a significant difference. The 3.5 inch bait, which is also 1/4 ounce, got 34% more hits and bumps. And the largest bait they tested, the 4.5 inch, got 20% more. Now, I don't think that really means that you get fewer strikes on the larger bait. As you and I both know, John, on any given day, fish are just going to hit different things. And I think that that's more coincidence. But what we're seeing here is that overall, their test showed that they were getting significantly more hits and bumps using the hit stick than a similar type bait.
No, you never know what they're going to hit. Although that little number 7 is my favorite, and I was glad to see it came out on top. But yeah, of course, they're different size forage. I mean, I don't know how fish in a fish pool, an artificial environment like that, are going to be in terms of when they've been fed and this and that, and maybe longer baits, or a 4.5 inch bait is harder to compete against or harder to make different, or oh gosh, we could do the metaphysical meanderings on this all day. But yeah, it doesn't mean it's still got 20% more. So out of 10 casts, it's giving you two more bumps than you had before. So still doing pretty good.
And what was your experience using the hit stick, John?
Oh, like we say, I ran right down test pond, used them, caught one bass right off, and then and we're not talking big bass, we're talking pound bass here, and hammer handles and stuff. But it was on a really cold windy day, and that lure cut that wind, and I was able to cast without backlashing, which backlashing for me is an issue on a regular perfect day. So it was great to have a bait that really cut that wind. And because I've got all this brush in my pond, the advantage of a floating jerk bait with a real slow rise like this is that instead of staying weight neutral and then continuing to move down the water column, every time I'd work it, when I'd come to the brush, you have to be patient because it is a real slow floater. It's really good as a jerk bait, but it will float up high enough then that you can walk it over the top of the brush, and then once you're the other side, you can hit it hard and pull it down and get it back to a greater depth. Really well built to stay in that strike zone. Wow, what a hard vibration, what a hard wobble. I mean, this thing, you've got to know it's sending off a lot of sound. And then I got a chance to go out another day to a private lake. This is a really weedy, brushy, messy lake. And it was a sunny day, a beautiful day. And they have these little flash weights in the belly of that thing. Those things, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the flash discs.
Yeah, flash discs. Yes. And that bait really rolls. And those in the sun, when they've got some light to catch, they give you a good flashy look. So you've got a visual component, killer paint job with epoxy that I think you could take a bullet to and not penetrate. Really good construction on the thing, and beautiful paint. And then of course it flashes too.
Yeah, so I took it right out to the test pond and also fished it on a local river for smallmouth. And I had a lot of the same experiences that you did. When you first see these flash discs, it makes you think that this is going to be a sinking lure. But it's not. It floats. It is super buoyant. It casts like a bullet. I fish a lot of ultralight. What I found is I could cast this and put it exactly where I wanted, much more than other small jerk baits. I mean, when you're dealing with a large jerk bait, it has enough weight just in that body. But even with these small ones, and what's interesting is, in many cases, the weight is the same, a 1/4 ounce, regardless of the length. So they've kept it kind of at that optimal the weight. It has the great action that you talked about. But the thing that really impressed me the most was it's near neutral buoyancy, meaning when you stop reeling that in or jerking it, the lure just hangs there in the water column. So if you have a bass that or other species that's coming up and watching that lure, with a lot of jerk baits I fished with, you stop reeling it and it just pops right up to the surface immediately. This hangs right in front of the fish for a long time. As a matter of fact, it hangs for so long, I kept thinking I was snagged. I'd be like, well, the lure didn't come up. Where is it? Is it snagged on something? And it just sits there. And I think that's probably the best feature of this. It casts like a bullet and it hangs there in that water column. So if you're jerking it, not reeling it consistently, you can stay at the same depth. You can jerk it and let it sit there for a few seconds and then jerk it again. And it's not floating all the way back to the top. And I give them high marks for those designs, as well as you saying the thing's bulletproof. I mean, it is a very hard surface lure, and I bounced it off rocks on purpose. Didn't make a dent in the thing, and was very easy to get hookups on it. Very high quality hooks as well.
Yeah, it's an exciting bait. It's a well-built bait, and the fact that it does have that near neutral, and yet it does have a floating aspect to it, is going to be sheer dynamite for people fishing for those big black crappies where you've got them down in the weed bed and they're looking up, and that old technique where you stick your rod clear down in the water and try to run your Rapala over the top of the right depth to get them up. Now with this, you can truly, a crappie's a fish that loves to suspend. So whether in a weed bed or you're out here on Hillsdale by me fishing for white crappie and they're suspended in the treetops right at 10 feet down, you can keep this lure right in that 10-foot zone. And of course, bass will do this. White bass will do it. I mean, this lure, this August, when the whites are hitting the top water stuff and all that, I can't wait. It's going to be just a whole lot of fun. But yeah, you can keep it right there in the zone. A lot easier to keep it in the strike zone. Let's get this recording done so I can get back out there.
And, it comes in a lot of different colors. One of the other things I like is there's a huge size variation. So if you're fishing ultralight, you can use this. If you're fishing for larger bass or stripers, you could use it for that as well. So they've really created a lot of different variations with it. It's definitely something I will keep in my tackle box from now on. For the smallmouth and largemouth and other species I fish for, this is perfect. I think it'd be great for walleye, for saugeye, whatever you're fishing for. I give them high marks for the research, and I give them even higher marks for sending us some free lures to review.
Hey, that's right, because we sent out a bunch of press releases and Berkely got right on it. So first in line, thank you so much, Berkely.
Warning, warning, lure news alert, lure news alert.
Okay, news flash. Here we go. We got 44-year-old country singer and American Idol judge Luke Bryan, who had to seek medical attention following a fishing injury in which his lure punctured his thumb in 2 places. In a video he posted online, Bryan said, "This is going to leave a mark, and pretty sure that's in my bone." Ouch, man. I mean it. But we'll be back on the water in about 25 minutes, he added, and he was back on his boat and fishing within a few hours. Anyway, we posted a link to the video in the show notes.
With all the national reporting on this story, not one news outlet bothered to find out what type of lure it was that Luke Bryan was using. I mean, to me, this is an outrage. This is the status, the quality of our national reporting today, and why people are so upset about fake news. You won't find that kind of shoddy journalism on the Lure Love podcast, where we always get to the bottom of what lure was involved. Unfortunately, there were no great photos of the lure because Bryan's thumb kept blocking the lure in the video. So we asked Lucy the Lurematic Computer to piece together partial photos and make a determination about the lure. So Lucy, what did you find?
Well, guys, there were no clear brand markings on the lure. I could tell it was a crankbait with a square bill. The body was silver with some blue on the back. Plus there was a small area of yellow color around the base of the front treble hook. Running the image through my extensive lure database, I can say with 98% certainty that the lure was a Strike King KVD square bill silent crankbait in chrome sexy shad.
Lucy, you are amazing. So, John, what do you know about the Strike King KVD square bill silent crankbait?
Well, according to Strike King's website, it's designed to the exact specifications of the 4-time Bassmaster Classic champ, Kevin Van Dam. They call it a silent assassin.
Silent but deadly, huh?
You can smell that all the way through the microphone? Oh, no, wait. We're talking about the lure here. Sorry. And by the way, it was the dog, not me. Folks, this square bill is designed to bounce off and deflect off cover and wander with an erratic searching action while still running true. The KVD square bill silent crankbait does not have any internal rattles, which makes it good for skittish, pressured fish.
John, so here's my question about this unfortunate fishing accident. Do you think the hook could be saved? And if so, would you need to resharpen it before fishing again, considering it penetrated bone?
Yeah, I love that. You're a tackle tinkerer. It's like, I don't know. I hope so. Because, it's like, we're always saving hooks off old lures. We're always, you got to save that hook. It's definitely going to need to be resharpened, though, I think.
I tell you what, he had a smile on his face, but this is a nasty looking injury. It is a big treble, and it definitely looks in the video like it penetrated bone.
Oh man. One time I had some lures set out on the handrail of a dock, the dock railing all the way around. I had them set out on top of it, and I saw a bass rise at a dock a cottage or two over. And so I just grabbed one of those lures and started to run and it snagged into the wood of the dock, which caused it to go into the pad of my thumb.
Ouch.
And basically yank me, back off my feet. So by the own weight of my body, I got hooked on that. Yeah, I was just a teenager at the time, only about 15, and I had to stand there and try to figure out all this stuff I'd read about what to do when you get hooked. And you're sitting there going, trying to remember. And they used to teach us to put line through it, and then press down and all this crazy stuff. But just between me and my pocket knife and my pliers, I got it out. But that was
wow.
Yeah, and then I didn't tell any grown-ups, which was dumb. I'm glad I didn't get tetanus from that, but I got away with it. But boy, so I know how kind of, I'm in the club, Luke. I'm in the club. I know how it feels, man.
So you know what a bass feels like when you're ripping lips. That's what happened to you, but with your thumb.
Yeah. That's why I always feel so guilty if I don't get them where I'm supposed to.
Now, I haven't been stuck myself, but I remember I was fishing with my kids at a pond one day, and this girl who was about 10 came up who had never fished before and grabbed some kid's fishing pole, and one of these Zebco units that have like the 10 or 12 pound test line on it, and she heaved back to cast and caught another kid right in the cheek so hard that when she cast, she snapped the 10-pound test. And what was amazing about it was, after you got done hearing the screams, is there was no blood at all. It was like she had pierced her cheek, that it pinched right through with the hook. Now, this was a single hook. I think it was a small jig that she had on there, but I can still hear that snap. Right? And the crazy thing is, I told my kids, I said, stay away from her when she's casting. She looks a little bit erratic. And then that happened. So
I feel so bad for the kid that got stuck and for everybody, but oh my God.
I did too, but we got the kid to the emergency room and they were able to get it out, no harm done, but
yeah, well, it's too bad she wasn't a 90s goth girl. She could have just left it in there.
John, as a follow-up question, do you think Strike King will start to put a warning label on their crankbaits that says keep away from thumbs and famous country singers?
Yeah, but after our little story session, I guess we're going to have to add crazy kids and old hippies that never grew up. And it's going to be a warning label that, like, when you open the lure, it just kind of scrolls out, and accordion folds all the way down to your feet. So I don't know if we need to put Strike King through that and all the rest, or if we could just wise up. You know what I'm saying? You know what, Tim? I think Got Hooked on a Sexy Shad would make a good name for a country song. What do you think?
Absolutely. Luke, the funny thing is, Luke Bryan is actually a huge fishing fanatic. And I don't know if you know, but he had a album that came out in 2020 that has a song titled Bill Dance, about the bass fishing legend. And here's the lyrics to the first verse. And I just love this. I mean, this guy loves to fish. And this is the first verse of the song. It goes, saved all my birthday money up, put it down on a rod and reel. I got my green and tan Plano loaded up. Permission to fish behind that old sawmill. Mama said, watch for snakes. Daddy said, shut the gate. Brother said, they're biting on the Zoom black and red flake.
Zoom plastic worms. Gotta love it. I mean it. That's awesome. That's awesome. There's so much in that little verse right there. Anyway, I just love it. I am not very familiar with Luke's work, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that right away.
You got to love any song that actually is mentioning the brand names of lures and fishing. That's right up my alley.
Oh, and the fact that this guy isn't making this up. I mean, a green and tan Plano, who doesn't have or didn't have one? And Daddy said, shut the gate, got permission to go where he was fishing. It's, be a good sport and get some inside info from your older brother and get going, But yeah, that's just awesome. Just awesome. I'll tell you what, Luke Bryan, if you are listening, please contact us to confirm that Lucy was correct about the KVD square bill silent crankbait. And buddy, if you ever want to come on to the podcast and talk about lures, you're always welcome.
Smart Lure Corporation announced that they've developed the world's first intelligent lure, the Smart Lure Model 0, which collects data on its actions and environmental factors while it's in the water, and then transfers the data to your smartphone for processing. This enables anglers to obtain accurate information on the underwater environment that could not be seen ever before, and to use that information as clues to improve their catch. The Smart Lure Model 0 is equipped with a proprietary sensor module that produces high definition data on water temperature, brightness, and actions, and the depth of the lure while it's in the water. Data is transferred to the Smart Lure app whenever requested by the angler. In addition to the location and date and time information, the app also integrates the weather conditions, moon cycle, tides, and other information that could affect the behavior of fish and ultimately fishing results. The company analyzes data by fish species, underwater environment, lure types, colors, and actions so that the secrets of fishing can be brought to light. That's up from its news release. So, John, is it just me, or is this company trying to steal all my best fishing spots?
When it comes to technology, I was there when they came out with the fish finder, but people were like, those darn things need to be outlawed. Fish finder's not fair. One thing I like about this, though, is that it does give the geeked out scientific angler a lot of data to play with.
That's no doubt about that. It's clearly is going to provide a huge amount of data. See,
Yeah.
my feeling is if I'm going to get skunked, I want to get skunked the old fashioned way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, as you were reading this, I was sitting there going, a lot of this stuff I'm doing, just collecting through my senses. Okay. But it's taken me 43 years to get here. Okay. And on the other hand, when I look at my 17-year-old self, my 14-year-old self, and I think of a person out there, a young person out there with their cell phone, and they're living in a tech world. And to them, this is just another instrument, scientific instrument to gather data so they can maybe make their decisions based on science. But I would hope they'd have a fisher that had done it the old fashioned way that can tell them, you got to learn to get where the fish are. You got to get the touch. So, when you got to strike, you may know where they're at. You may know what they want, but if you can't tell they've hit your lure, then, you're out of luck. So there's a lot of things that an app can do for you, but there's a lot of things it never will.
You're absolutely right. What you don't want the app to tell you is, John, you have not caught any fish in the last 17 hours.
I don't need an app for that. Yeah, no.
But I'll tell you, John, if I wanted a high-tech lure, there are 3 things that I would want it to do. The first is I want it to be able to deploy a small crowbar and unsnag itself so I would never lose a lure again.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the second thing is when 2 fish approach the lure, and this is probably you've had this before, I want the lure to automatically swim into the mouth of the larger fish because inevitably that smaller fish beats out the larger one by 2 inches.
Every time. And oh man, I've got some stories.
And then the third thing is if the bass are finicky, I'd like the lure to be able to taunt them by saying things like, your mother was a carp and your father was a catfish, to really entice them to chomp down on it.
Big old, male bass being like, what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bite you. Yeah. Perfect.
What do you want in a high-tech lure?
Okay. So here's what I want in my high-tech lure. Okay. First of all, I want to have it to have a metal detector in it so I can hunt treasure while I fish. So if the fish aren't biting, and I can get out my magnet and pull up treasure or get out my swim fins and find some treasure, whatever, right? But I want it to hunt for treasure.
So you could catch like a 10-pound salmon and a Buick in the same cast?
That would be the whole idea. It's like my Buick and whatever comes spilling out when we open the doors is mine as well. Also, we talk about what does a fish know? I want the lure to transmit all the grunts and noises I don't realize I am making while cranking in a good fish to the fish. So the fish knows he's got a chance, that he's having an effect on the monster that's up there pulling him towards shore. Because, dude, the first time I ever made a YouTube video of myself fishing, all the puffing and huffing, grunting, and all these noises, Kathy was just like, what in the world? How old are you supposed to be? And so anyway, I want to give the fish a chance.
I love it.
I totally want it to grow legs and scramble like a crab over deadfalls and lily pads, and then jump off, especially lily pads, maybe scramble up on it, run around a couple of times to set up sort of a thing, maybe hop from 1 or 2 pads to the other, then dive in, boom. That's what my automatic high-tech lure can do.
I am so surprised that we have not been contacted by one of these high-tech companies as research consultants with ideas like this we would be on the cutting edge. All we need is a Kickstarter campaign and raise a couple $1 million, and we will get right on this.
Just a couple mil and we're there. All right. Easy as breathing. All right. Well, that's all for today. We'd like to thank Grace Beat for singing our intro outro song. We like to thank Glasswater Angling for making Lure Love possible. And we really want to thank Berkely for sending us those hit sticks, baby. We are so excited to use your new lure. We got it off the hot lure list for 2021. And by golly, that's where it sure belongs, right up there at the top. So thank you, Berkely. Until next time, this is Tim, Lucy, and the Crappie Hippie asking why buy one lure when you can buy 103.
Lure Love, you've been on my mind. Never enough lures to tie to the end of my line. Lure Love, can't I make you see? Why buy 5 lures and you can buy 100?